outrage on social media, talking down at companies.
But the intolerance comes in terms of the investors not being available for those, I guess.
But the investors continue to be available. Here's the reality check here. As long as investors continue to be available and our addiction to carbon is growing, it's not going down, it is just growing on a large scale, on a big trajectory. So while that continues, investors are not going to discourage en masse or large scale turn down. They're not going to bring
Let me just ask that question then, which is startling and worrying and flies in the face slightly of what you said earlier, Lorenzo, because you said actually our energy mix is going to change.
And I don't want you, excuse me, to address that first question.
I'm going to get there in a second. You'll get first crack at that one.
Yeah, I'm going to take a crack at that.
It's glaring at us, isn't it? It's glaring at us and it's for you to answer. But look, are we going the wrong way on carbon? I mean, for all of the amazing conversation we've had so far about these amazing technologies, the carrot and stick, the affordability, are we actually increasing our addiction, as you put it, to energy? How does the panel feel about that?
Look at the data.
We have a challenge with population increasing.
Well, not in China, according to the latest data.
Globally. Also, if you look at from developing nations, there is a need for more energy. It's well known that energy demand is increasing. So you've got the challenge of an energy demand increase and having to also successfully complete the transition, which is why the fuel agnostic but emissions focus is so important, because we're going to need a full array of capability. Technology is starting to be developed. Do we have to go faster? Yes, but we need that ecosystem of stakeholders together to make it work. You've got some great examples from Heineken, what they've done as a company. Great examples Baker Hughes, Mitsubishi. But at the end, we're just one of examples. You need to scale those examples up, and that's where what the Minister says with regards to the discussion is about.
If I get a brief answer from you, sir, and then we're going to go back to the question that's glaring at all of us on top of the slide there.
I think I should say the other top management of the private company. I think as this climate change and net zero emission efforts is a worldwide and huge problem and task for us, and we should not blame the someone, because who are seen a little delayed or what we should think about. We should think they are making their best efforts, and sometimes leaders or the innovators and others may not be rewarded financially very well, but I think it is the responsibility, and in return it is the honor and happiness to be a leader of the technology and to be the system developer and inventor, and that is the honor and of the company, and also the supporting government each other is the another respectable organization.
I think that's a really good point, sir. Yes. It's something that's lost on a lot of business leaders sometimes. Actually, just doing the right thing brings its own rewards. Yes. Minister, you get the final point on should emerging economies use coal and gas until they are developed.
No, I want to ask you.
Me?
Why do I get the final point? No, you gentlemen answer that question.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to answer it. Okay,
no. I'm asking you, I'm putting you on the mat.
Well, there we go then. Dolph.
It's a devilish dilemma, right? Because on one side, every coal we burn and we know it's incredibly bad, and at the same time, who are we to block developing countries from developing? So I find it very hard to answer that question.
I would agree, it's very hard to answer that question. I think we've got to do a better job with the developing and emerging economies so that we can enable them from an infrastructure, and it's not fair that countries that have had the opportunity to have energy and abundant energy deny the same access to others.
and this is the point of WEF, isn't it? For too long, WEF and international organisations have told the world what to do.
Here's what can be done. Use every meeting as a call to action. If developing economies, and they do obviously need to use coal, they need to use dirty fuel for development, and the historical emitters, the other emitters, those that have made the 99%, we're still under the 1%. We're saying that 1%, not the 99, needs to move the resources to the under 1% to make those transitions. Right now, no one's doing that. So all this is pie in the sky until then.
Quite extraordinary. Look, I know we've gone over already a little bit, but I'm going to just say to the panel, I'm just going to name them all for once because they've been brilliant. And then we're going to get closing remarks from Pedro Gomez from WEF as well. Many thanks, Shinichi Miyanaga as well. Lovely to meet you, sir, as well. Lorenzo, always a pleasure. I know we're going to meet again soon in Italy, which I'm very much looking forward to discuss many of these kind of issues. Dolph van den Brink, it's always a pleasure, sir. Thank you for some really concrete ideas of what you're doing and how you're doing it different ways in different countries. I think that's really important to know as well. And a special thank you to Her Excellency Sherry Raymond as well, because you have made this a very real debate, and that's very important for the World Economic Forum as well. Pedro Gomez is going to make some final comments.
Thank you very much, Steve, and of course thank you to all the panelists. I think you have facilitated a very productive exchange. I hope this is one of the most consequential discussions we have during this week in Davos. We've heard some of the answers to the challenges and opportunities we have if we want to bend the emissions curve today. We also have some questions that are left unanswered. I think that's okay, but I think they need to be treated as a call to action. Here at the WEF, at the World Economic Forum, we are keen to be part of the solution. What I offer here now is that we're going to be following up with each and every one of you, but more importantly, we're going to be leveraging the communities we have in this place. We have communities across industries, across stakeholder groups, and it was mentioned a number of times, these issues are too complex. No one single organization or stakeholder in isolation can afford to make and can actually drive the solution. We need an all-hands-on-deck approach to solve this matter, and if we are working together, we don't need to work to be rowing in perfect sync, but at least we need to go in the same direction, and I think we have an opportunity to bend the emissions curve today. Thank you so much for everyone's participation.
Sabia que a economia criativa engloba todas as artes? Mais uma série de segmentos como arquitetura, gastronomia, design e moda? Eu soube depois que assinei a revista Criativos.
Todos os dias você tem um encontro com a criatividade. www.criativos.blog.br. Saiba tudo de artes, comunicação, cultura. Assine agora mesmo a revista Criativos. www.criativos.blog.br.
Responses to climate change and without energy. So I believe these three issues and climate change are all global issues and urgent issues. So we need to find a world that we can cooperate, we can work with each other based on scientific foundations. This is where we need to work together. Thank you.
All of our panelists for a tremendous discussion. An important topic. Thank you all. Appreciate it very much. Thank you all for being here.
Eu uso meu smartphone para fazer compras e ouvir música. Adoro conhecer músicas novas. Eu pesquiso por ritmos, palavras, sentimentos. Eu uso a plataforma Cedro Rosa Digital.
guardião, iluminação no meu caminhar. O meu samba, exaltação, tem a pretensão de homenagear terra tão linda assim. Não há padroeiro, guardião, abro o coração para te apelar. Encomenda solução pra desilusão, pra tanto pesar, terra tão linda assim. Não há. Pede ao Cristo Redentor, se demais não for, salve Paquetá. Simpatia é quase amor, canta em teu louvor, fazendo de altar, esconde de Pirajá. Guarda bem perto de ti o tripe do Didi, choro de lembrar. O mar lava minha dor, santo por favor, pede a Iemanjá pra nos erros me perdoar. Sou escravo da Mauá, vou ali meu bem, mas eu volto já. Lá no pagode do trem, samba nota 100, eu vou me acabar nos boêmios de Irajá. Terra tão linda assim não há. Santa Cruz, Penha, Camara, que a mangueira se enfeita, e o emprego a te coroa, bateria já vai para salve Oswaldo Cruz.
Olá, eu sou Marcel Vieira e sou parceiro de Toninho Galante no samba Eu Acho Que É Amor, que já está em todas as plataformas digitais. Ouve lá.
Ticket in the state of Georgia. We've had 2 record years in a row economically. Our mid-year numbers will probably break last year's if you take out the 2 big mega projects we had. Talked about the things that we did on teacher pay raises, on school security, our 2 healthcare waivers, even though a lot of the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. was trying to hold those up. We had innovative solutions that are lowering private sector costs and bringing more access to people, really pushing back to the one-size-fits-all narrative that Mob's been driving for literally 6 years now. And I think people bought into that. They bought into a politician that, and I got this question at the end of the campaign. A reporter said, what's your closing message to people? And I asked the question to the voters. You know, look at the candidates and ask who's been fighting for you. Who is fighting to keep your business open when all the pressure from both political parties, from people in high places, from a lot of other people that were sitting in the basement on a computer was not to stay open, was not to reopen our economy. Who was pushing to get our kids back in the classroom? Well, we did all of those things. And, you know, we proved that we were fighting for people. We were fighting for election security. We were fighting for people to have a good paying job and to have, you know, to survive, to live, to fight another day economically in our state. We fought for our people by giving them $1 billion of their tax money back to help them fight through 40-year high inflation, because in my opinion, there's a lot of bad policies in Washington, D.C. And the voters of my state, the great state of Georgia, certainly responded to that.
Thank you, Governor. How does it look seeing it from the capital, your capital, and looking at DC? There's a lot of partisanship, and of course there will be disagreements in a democracy, but do you think it has gone so far that it can be a negative factor for America now moving forward?
Listen, I think from my perspective, a lot of frustration with Washington, D.C. I understand Senator Coons' position on the IRA, but you know, that hurt Georgia-based electric vehicle companies in our state. It was not treating them fairly. I believe the legislation picked winners and losers. Thankfully, I think the administration is working on fixing that. I don't think we were treated fairly in the state because we had been open. We had a low unemployment rate, so the level of funding coming out of Washington, D.C. in the current administration, we're treated differently from New York and California. You know, their citizens per capita were getting more money than ours, and so that's frustrating to someone like me as the governor that just wants to be have our citizens treated fairly. You know, there's frustrations, quite honestly. Look, if there's gridlock in Washington, D.C., one thing you can count on is the stability and a great economy, a great business in the state of Georgia, and we're going to keep rocking and rolling. But it is frustrating to have to deal with the fentanyl crisis because we simply cannot secure our border in this country. And I'm hopeful that something gets done, but you know, my advice, take for what it's worth, while we're waiting on that, just secure the border. I mean, literally every governor in the country is dealing with the fentanyl crisis